here talking with National Firearms Authority Massad Ayoob. There's been a lot of talk nationwide lately about the need for a national concealed carry permit, and Ayoob is one of the leading proponents of this. Mass, could you tell me a little bit about this?
Well, I think it's an idea whose time has come. America, more than ever, is a mobile society. We have people who may have residences in multiple states, may visit family in other states, who have to travel interstate for their work, for their recreation. The gun law situation in America has historically been a crazy quilt of balkanized law. You have, for example, in my state, New Hampshire, it's no trick at all for a resident or a non-resident to get a license to carry a concealed weapon for personal protection. It will, however, be limited to handguns. If you have a loaded rifle or shotgun in the car, you're in violation of the game laws. You may contrast that to Texas or Kentucky, where there is no provision to get a permit to carry a concealed pistol, as mass murder victims found out from Kentucky to Texas to their chagrin. Yet it's legal to have a fully loaded rifle or shotgun in the vehicle so long as it's exposed. You have 6 or 8 states where there is a possibility to get a non-resident concealed carry permit, some more easily than others. The situation ranges from Vermont, where a citizen is not required to get a permit to carry a concealed weapon. It's understood in law that it's their privilege to do so automatically. They're merely forbidden to do so with malicious intent or if they have a felony background. We have probably on the order of 19 or 20 states where there is no provision at all for anyone but a police officer or a security guard to get a permit to carry a concealed weapon. We have many more jurisdictions ranging from Southern California to, let's say, New York City to the Detroit, Wayne County area in Michigan, where the law is on the books that allows you to get the permit, but de facto arbitrary enforcement at a bureaucratic level has prevented the citizens from gaining this right. The passage of a national CCW, a national permit to carry a concealed weapon, would literally free the citizens in those many states who are not allowed to share the privilege of the others. It would allow those who do travel for business, pleasure, or family emergency to be armed if they so chose, felt it so necessary, and could live up to the responsibility that accompanied the power.
So what you're basically advocating is the issuance of a permit that would allow you to carry a concealed weapon anywhere in America.
That's correct. Reciprocity would not work for 2 very good reasons. First, if we said, let's ask New York to be reciprocal with Florida or Virginia, we have now the situation of anti-gun bureaucrats in New York who want still more draconian gun confiscation. When confronted with the fact that their confiscatory draconian laws haven't worked in the past, they're saying it's not our fault, we had the right laws, but those lax laws in Virginia and Florida allowed the guns to come in. You'll run into the same mentality and the same obstacles to recognizing the out-of-state permits. Consider the mentality of the New York City officials who will not even recognize a permit from elsewhere in New York State.
Okay. When you talk about reciprocity, I guess there are some people who say rather than having a national concealed carry permit, let's just keep our state permits, only they would be recognized elsewhere in America.
Yeah, and the second reason I disagree with that is that leaves out in the cold our brothers and sisters in those many states where they cannot get a local permit and therefore would have nothing to gain reciprocity with. Mm-hmm. I think what we would need would be a national licensing system analogous to the way pilots licensing or interstate commercial trucking licenses are given today. The test can be taken at any state under state auspices, but it's done to federal standards. Once issued, remains in force, once issued, fulfills a national standard, and is recognized by the other 49 states.
I think the danger there would be to set things up so that it was set very clearly what the standards would be to get a permit, so that people in Southern California or New York City or whatever couldn't jack the standards up to the point where it would basically be where it is now. Only the few would be allowed to have a permit.
I've heard that argument. people who say this is one reason not to have national CCW because it could open the door for that, and the next thing we know we'll have unrealistic standards and can't even carry in our state, are missing a point. First, the day is coming when in virtually every issuing jurisdiction, to get a permit to carry, you will have to pass some sort of a written test, understanding what your rights are and what the laws are that govern your use of the weapon and your skills. We're seeing this now in various jurisdictions. The reform laws typified by the model law in Florida, which has since been followed by Idaho, which the activists are trying to get passed in Texas and Missouri, was able to pass the state legislature in each case only because it provided a minimum standard of training. The legislators would accept trained, certified, responsible people carrying guns and would never have voted into law anything that indiscriminately allowed anyone to simply carry a pistol in public. Now, the issuing authority today, depending where you go, in Michigan it will be a district attorney, in Virginia will be a judge, and in most other communities will be the county sheriff's office or the chief of police's office in a municipality. Why do so many of these chiefs and sheriffs become reluctant to issue the permits? Because they're aware there is a severe civil liability implication. For the same reason those sheriffs and chiefs require their men to take an additional 10 or 20 hours in service deadly force training every year, qualify to a minimum standard, a minimum number of times, is that they realize they sent those men out in the street with loaded guns. And if something goes wrong, they're in the chain of vicarious liability. Chief, you set him loose out there with a gun, he shot the wrong person, we're suing you. They are slowly figuring out that when they signed the gun permit for you as a private citizen, they have done exactly the same thing and are in the chain of liability. So the qualifications are going to come anyway, Duane. But the history of this, the history of any conflict, is that the winner of the battle gets to write the terms of the treaty, not the guy who fought, and was finally overwhelmed. All he gets to do is swallow whatever is shoved down his throat. And this has been, in the past 20 years, the history of the gun rights movement in the United States. If we take the initiative on this, we are the ones who get to write a reasonable standard. A standard of competency testing should be simple enough to allow an 80-year-old arthritic grandmother who can see her target to pass the test. I don't care if she can speed reload. I want to know, does she know how to safely load and unload the pistol? Does she know how to safely store the pistol and keep it out of unauthorized hands? Is she competent to manipulate the weapon so that a shot fired at a typical home defense distance, say across a bedroom, would strike a target and not another innocent victim? This can be done simply, smoothly, and efficiently. An additional bonus for this is because none of the police departments are set up to do it. The logical thing would be to do what we're doing right now with the hunter safety programs. The stuff is farmed out to area gun clubs, area run gun associations, etc. This brings in now a flood of new blood and new membership to these strong organizations that in many cases are losing their membership as the encroachment of an urban society upon a rural one brings in fewer people who have the family dispositioning to be gun enthusiasts. It brings more money into these clubs. It gives them more power to do other forms of safety training. For those in economically disadvantaged areas like the inner city, it would be no trick at all to train people as NRA instructors in home, voluntary firearms responsibility, etc. And through community watch, guardian angels if you wanted, whatever local group, make this available affordably or for free for our lower income citizens in the inner city high crime areas who most need this privilege and who traditionally have been most discriminated against by the white male power elite.
So you're talking about these requirements not to own a handgun, but to get the National Concealed Carry Permit to carry a gun concealed on the street.
Emphatically, I believe it's a right of any law-abiding citizen to own a gun. When it starts to become a privilege, historically in the society, has been when you seek to carry the loaded gun in public, walking among the rest of the citizens. There is an implication there that however remotely you believe the day may come when you need to fire that gun in public in the presence of those other citizens. And historically, society is imposed with the power to carry that gun, the responsibility to make certain that you can do so coolly, calmly, safely, and accurately, reducing the jeopardy to the citizenry in general instead of adding to the general jeopardy. We're talking here a national license to carry concealed. It would probably require a good 30-day waiting period to allow for a proper criminal record character background check. What it should do then and thereafter, first, it should be good for life without requirement for the bureaucratic burden of annual renewal. Revocable upon conviction of a felony or proof of adjudication of mental incompetence, etc. The license to carry should require, as we discussed earlier, a minimum standard of qualification. There should be a reasonable price to pay for the background run. The state of Florida charges $160 for theirs. That should more than cover it. The benefits, I think, would be manifold. I think we're seeing with, if we are successful in the passage of H.R. 4897, I believe, you'll want to double check that. The Police Protection Act that would authorize career and retired career police officers to carry off duty anywhere in the country. We see a corollary there in a couple of ways. First, it shows that the law enforcement community itself recognizes there is a great advantage to law enforcement and public safety to have multiple armed, trained people out there who might be present at a violent felony scene and capable of interdicting it and protecting the innocent. There would be no other justification to authorize the arming of that many people who had no jurisdiction, no power to arrest. Second, if and when such legislation passes, you would have the needed precedent for national concealed carry for the responsible citizen who can show proof of training. The very fact that these officers either no longer have power of arrest or have power of arrest elsewhere indicates society's recognition that you don't need arrest power where you are to prevent violent crime to the innocent. What you need is a gun and the knowledge of how and when to use it. Once that precedent exists and the passage of the National Police Protection Act that would authorize nationwide off-duty carry by police, you have the necessary precedent.
Personally, I don't think that I would have a problem having to go in and prove my competency to carry a concealed firearm. I think that would also tend to get rid of the argument that anti-gunners have that only bozos want to carry guns. If you can go in and prove that you're competent.
We have seen that as the history of the Great Florida Experiment. In the beginning, when Marion Hammer's law was proposed, the Handgun Control Incorporated types were saying, my God, there'll be a shootout at every backed-up line at every gas station in the state, da-da-da-da. It has not happened. There have been multiple cases now where the concealed carry permit did what it was supposed to do. It saved the life of innocent people multiple times over by allowing a gun to be there when it wouldn't have been otherwise. There has been perhaps one instance of someone with a concealed carry permit doing something with it that they should not have. And the Handgun Control Incorporated types have simply shut up in the face of that overwhelming knowledge. We would see that now multiplied 50-fold by national concealed carry. And the reality of this would very quickly become apparent to the rank and file citizenry at large. The great silent majority on this polarized debate of gun control would now have a much better handle on who is telling the truth, who is facing the reality of gun presence and prevention of violent crime in the United States.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Duane. Good luck.
Spoke yesterday of tactics that you should employ, and the most important would be naturally cover, concealment, and distance. Now, why would you want to have to do that other than for protecting yourself? Also, for perhaps protecting someone else. And I want you to realize, and this is especially true of police officers, not much civilians, but many of my police officers that I teach have a feeling that because they got that badge, that uniform, that gun, they are the supreme lord in that area. But they forget that they may be overlapping maybe 4 or 5 other lawful jurisdictions. DEA, plainclothes, local narcotics, local crime fighters, street crime fighters, plainclothes, detectives, and narcotic squad. So they also, not only that, armed guards, or that may be undercover. Also, civilian pistol licensees. Does that mean that everybody you're going to see with a gun in his hand is a felon? No. That's why you must employ the tactics of getting that cover, concealment, or distance to afford you that tactic that you must find out if that in fact is the enemy. You'd be very embarrassed if you find out you shot a narcotics cop or a federal officer, FBI, or one of the various overlapping jurisdictions of law enforcement, or even a pistol licensee. We've had this happen in New York City PD many times. I know of 3 sets of cops shooting at each other before they realized they were all cops. And what had happened was, this one fella's in a bar having a few beers. Everybody knew that was Willie, the local cop, right? They come over to Willie. They, hey, Willie, this guy down on the end of the bar here, this little guy, he's got a pistol. He's showing everybody he's got a little automatic. And we don't think he's a cop or anything, right? Willie says, he's got to show the boys. He's got a few in him. He's got to show the boys he's macho and he's the boss in the area. He goes over, hey, you got a license for that gun? He goes, yeah, sure. Boom! Hits him right in the thigh and takes off and runs out the bar. Well, Willie runs out after him. It was only a .25 automatic. Now, Willie and him are engaging in a fight. This guy runs behind a car. Willie now ducks behind a mailbox. They're shooting at each other. On coming up on a scene is anti-crime, plain clothes. They're all dressed like Willie's opponent. You know, they're wearing bandanas and they got the earrings and the long hair, right? Willie thinks they're his friends. Willie starts shooting at them. They shoot at Willie because they don't know Willie. They're from a division rather than from the precinct. Now, Willie and this crew are shooting at each other because the reporter come over, man with a gun. These anti-crime cops heard it. They responded to the scene. Now, detectives arrive on the scene because they get the same call. Man with a gun, right? They start shooting at anti-crime because they're from Willie's precinct and they know Willie. So now here's 3 sets of cops banging away at each other, right? Well, we lose one ankle, we lose an elbow. Nobody dies, thank God. And it wasn't until the radio car comes, uniformed police, that everybody signaled them, hey, over here. What? Well, they're cops too. So here's 3 sets of cops shooting at each other. Now, so, oh, and by the way, the original guy, he took off. He was gone. So now, and how I know this case is a female lawyer. She retained me to teach her what was the normal use of force by police officers, legal use of force, what you must do, and so forth. And of course, I says nobody identified each other, and that was the big mistake. So now you as a pistol licensee must also remember this. Let us say now you engage in an altercation involving firearms, whether it be just to just de-escalate the force, and you didn't want it to go any further, a guy had a club or a knife on you, and you say, oh, stop, Paul. You get a challenge. What are you going to do from behind you? What are you going to do if you get a challenge? And you've got this guy that you held a gun on that perhaps was ready to hit you with a bat or something, and you're protecting yourself, and you get a challenge from behind. What are you going to do? What would you do? Would you respond to it?
Whatever they say.
You bet. You know why? Who the heck is going to challenge you? If it's another asshole that's with him, he's going to blow you away. It's probably another cop that's coming on the scene, and he sees a civilian with a gun, and he doesn't recognize you. The best thing you better do is to actually put your hands up, put the gun in a non-offensive position, holding it by the grip, and say, I'll put the gun down, you know, I'm a pistol licensee or whatever you are, showing your legal ability. You got to realize that with anybody that's walking around with a gun may not be a felon, plus law enforcement officers that come upon you with a gun, you've got to be sure that he doesn't feel the same way. One of my close friends was killed by a New York City cop, a detective. We worked in the 23rd precinct together. I'm on a stakeout, and sure enough, he comes in, he's off duty, and this was his home area. He buys a bottle of liquor, and I said, gee, I don't dare come out. I didn't want to blow the plant. I said, oh, I haven't seen this guy in years. Oh, damn. Next day he's killed. And what had happened was Lieutenant McGee from the firearms unit decided that they don't want no more white guns. All cops going to have blue guns, all right? So they passed an order out, no more white guns, except the cops who had them can keep them, but any new cops now can only have black guns. This had happened maybe 2 months before this incident. Rookie cop on the street sees my buddy, who him and his partner are chasing these two dopers. He's got his guy on the ground and he's got his gun out. The cop sees a black guy, a white gun in the head. Well, all you hear is two male blacks doing the robbing here, right? He's got a white gun. He's not a cop. Kaboom. He said he challenged him. And he said the officer turned around when he shot. I know this guy. He was pretty sharp. I don't think he'd have been that stupid. Although, you never know. You, in the heat of battle, are probably drawing your attention to what you're handling. And you may hear just, and you don't know what it is, and what was that? Turned around, boom, he got killed. So the thing is that if you employ the tactics that I speak of, looking for the nearest cover, looking for the nearest concealment, or trying to keep distance from where you think that imminent gunfight may be, you may be able to afford that little time extra, that little microsecond that'll say, hey, this guy isn't a felon. Maybe, oh, he's a cop. All right, so you found that out. You will also recover from reaction time if you have those three tactics: cover, concealment, or distance. You know what reaction time is? You could have a gun in your hand, and you challenge him, and you figure, and he say even like this with his gun down, right? And you challenge him. If he decides, this is exactly what happened to one of my stakeout men. I had told him, I says, when you come out and you make your challenge, if he doesn't drop the gun the instant you make your challenge and he recognizes the police on your vest, I says, you better blow him out of his socks. He says, what? I got a shotgun and a vest and you're telling me to kill this guy? He was in a liquor store on 14th Street on 2nd Avenue, and a black and white team comes in. They're holding up the liquor store. Martel comes out, freeze, drop it. The first thing he sees, he's got the gun on the manager. He just went bang, bang, 2 shots. He saw the flash. He said, oh my God. He felt the first one hit his vest, and the next one, I guess while the gun was in recoil, just narrowly missed his head, hit the door jamb behind him. He started to pump that trombone shotgun and almost split the guy in half and sent him right out into 2nd Avenue. And he told me, Jim, you're right, because I almost bought the farm. Because he didn't realize reaction time. Now, if I was there, I would have challenged from concealment. I wouldn't have popped out. And then if I saw that this guy is looking in my direction, of course, then I would have acted on beyond that. But he popped out. He was close to this guy. He didn't listen to my training where I said, you know, keep your concealment, keep your cover. I said, tell them you're police, yell at your police, let them know you're police. I says, but don't let them know where you are. He should have stayed behind his cover where he could have shot if he had to. So anyway, the thing is, if you learn to employ those tactics, and what I would like you to do is, when your normal day activities, practice scenarios. Give yourself some little situations. Now, what if this was a hit? That, well, I could jump behind this car, I could jump behind here, I could hit behind this wall. Try to figure out what you would do if the situation were like if you were in a bank somewhere and you got caught. Or in your own home. How would you do it in your own home? Where would you secure guns in your own home? Now, a wonderful way of securing guns in several places, and I've done this, is if you can get some old radio speakers, the magnet in the speaker, and attach them, say, under your coffee table, and you stick a gun under your coffee table. Or you hide a gun in other various spots of your home. Those magnets, or if you have a store, and you have a storefront right under the counter, you attach a magnet, drill a hole through the magnet, screw it into the top of the bottom of the counter, stick a gun right there, and that will hold the gun very secure. You can plant guns in around your house and figure out the scenario. If you have a storefront or something, figure out, here's my most available cover, I'll dive here. Have a preset plan of tactics for possible situations. Just don't go blind stepping forward with one foot over the other. Think about what you're going to do. Also, we found that when they employ the same tactic sometimes, if you start talking to him, you keep his mind occupied before he can think of what he wants to do. All right? Then if you can make you move either to dive for cover or make you motion, and you've got enough distance, you can make the move you want to move. If you keep talking to him, oh gee, I'll give you anything you want, please don't shoot. Oh man, I got a heart condition. You just keep talking to him like that, you'll keep him off guard. So what I would like you to do is always, whenever you can, try to set a plan of tactics that you may employ, that you would use in almost any situation through your everyday life. And remember always, you walk into a store that maybe is going to get robbed, look for the nearest cover or concealment. And always keep distance, never run up on a situation. All right?
Okay, let's look at the two types of wounding we have. We have a low-velocity wounding and high-velocity wounding. We're just going to try to cut through some myths. I know that most of you understand how bullets work, but I'm going to try to get to the meat of it. Okay, low-velocity wounding and high-velocity wounding. It's hard to say that one's different from the other. I mean, they're both basically the same. I mean, one's just a little bit more extreme type of wounding. Okay, what place do we have high velocity and what place do we have low velocity wounding? When does one take place and the other not take place? The Army says that at 2,000 feet per second and above, you get high velocity wounding. Some other people would argue that about 1,600 feet per second is where the cutoff point is. So somewhere between 1,600 and 2,000 feet per second and under, we would classify that as low velocity wounding, and 1,600 feet per second and 2,000 feet per second and above, we classify as high velocity wounding. We would also usually, just to simplify things, we would classify a shotgun blast that's struck as one unit, where all the pellets are basically touching or near touching. We would just qualify that as high velocity wounding. And when they're spread out, where the cavitations are touching each other, we classify that as low velocity wounding. Okay, and I'll get into why. Okay, we have three things that are taking place. Three things that are probably taking place when we shoot someone. We know that for sure we have permanent cavitation. We have a permanent wound cavity, a hole that goes through. That at a minimum, whether it's high velocity or low velocity, we're going to get the hole that the bullet makes. Okay. 2, we're going to have temporary wound cavitation, or the temporary wound cavity. This is where the big difference is between high velocity and low velocity wounding. With low velocity wounding, your temporary cavitation is not important. It does not hurt the individual significantly. The reason being, think about throwing a rock into the water and it ripples. That's what the projectile is doing as it goes through your body. And the liquid in your body is going to move away and then move back in from the shock. Now, your flesh being fairly elastic, most parts of it, except for like the liver and kidneys and things like that, moves away and comes back together. And when we're talking about handgun bullets, it usually moves away and comes back together at a slow enough rate that it does not disrupt the tissue. So the only tissue that was destroyed was what the bullet touched. And everything that moved away and came back together is just fine. It stretched a bit, it came back together, no problem. High velocity wounding. When we move a projectile through the flesh at a high velocity, the flesh moves out of the way and comes back together at a very rapid rate. Sometimes so fast that the tissue disrupts. It separates. Okay? And that's where you get those wounds that a lot of people have seen, war wounds, where guys have big dents in large muscle groups. They have just a big dent that's all missing. Usually because they went in and debrided the wound. Where they go in and they just scrape out all the dead flesh, which is what you need to do on the battlefield because of your hygiene problems. Nowadays, and especially in hospitals, there's no reason to scrape out all the dead flesh. They just let the body reabsorb it because we have all the antibiotics and sterile environment and all that. On the battlefield, they just scrape it all out. All that dead flesh just comes out. And what you get is you get a big hole. A big hole going through. Where that 223 or 308 or something like that went through, the flesh went like that. And instead of leaving that little 22 caliber hole, or even the hole that it made if it tumbled, you get a big area of destroyed flesh. High velocity wounding. Okay? From temporary cavitation. Now with handgun bullets, we can probably argue that there is not much temporary cavitation that's of significant value. Though some would argue that maybe that's why like 125 grain 357 is supposedly as effective as it is maybe you're getting to the point where you're starting to get some more effects from more high velocity wounding type effects. Okay. We have something else which we're not positive on, but we're pretty sure on, is there's some type of neurological shock. When the projectile goes through your body, it is going to strike nerves, and the temporary cavitation is going to affect nerves. And what we're pretty sure what's going on is that those nerves, when being struck, send signals. And they send signals to the brain. And what we think what may be happening is enough signals are being sent at once that it's hitting the brain and confusing the brain for a period of time and actually shutting down the portions of your brain that give you things like conscious thought and things like that, and only leave, you know, the heart moving and the heart pumping and the lungs breathing, and that's about it. This sometimes happens. It's been known to happen more frequently when you hit places like the kidneys and the liver, things like that. Probably because of the more destruction of tissue, because those areas are busting up. And so it's a lot more trauma to the body. But we know that when people are shot, sometimes they are instantly incapacitated from a shot that should not instantly incapacitate them. A shot that did not hit their spine and did not hit their brain, but stopped them dead in their tracks. Put them right on the floor, unconscious. And that can only be explained probably by neurological shock. Okay? And there's a few pages in Marshall's book on neurological shock, talking about shooting pigs and having EKGs or EEGs or whatever the heck they are hooked up to them and having them go flatline for 30 or 40 seconds after being shot. Okay. Okay. So those are the three things we have. Now, shotgun blasts. Why do we classify close-range shotgun blast as high-velocity wounding? Reason being is we're going to have temporary cavitation, right? We know in our low-velocity wounds, even if we shoot somebody with a 45 or something like that, we're going to have some temporary cavitation where the tissue is going to move away and come back together at a slow rate. Right? It's not going to disrupt. When a shotgun pellet hits, it's moving at such a velocity that, yes, it has temporary cavitation like a handgun projectile, slow movement. The problem is, or the advantage is, at this range, is that our temporary cavitations, let me just draw this even bigger, try to do to scale. Okay? Here's our shotgun blast. We have one of those odd rounds that holds 10 pellets. Okay? Here's our temporary cavitation. No big deal, right? Except they overlap. When they overlap, there's enough, though the temporary cavitation is taking place slowly, it's moving away and coming back together at a fairly slow rate. Since another temporary cavitation is crossing the same tissue at the same time, we get disruption. We get tissue disruption like a high velocity wound, giving you that what they're calling like a rat hole wound, you know, that old fist-sized hole right through somebody. It's because your temporary cavitations cross each other, and they're tapping at the same time, and so that you get disruption, tissue disruption, like in high velocity wounding. Now, once the pellet's spread out far enough that your temporary cavitation is not crossing over another temporary cavitation, then you have a bunch of low velocity projectiles, basically. So, if you're 3 or 4, probably 2 or 3 yards from the muzzle, in most shotguns you're going to get something like that, right? If you're a little farther than that, it's going to be spread out enough that you're probably not going to get any type of high velocity wounding, any effect from your temporary cavitation. Okay, stopping power. So-called stopping power, if we want to use that term. We don't have a better term, so I guess we have to use that term. These 3 things come from John Farnham. Okay, though any of us could have thought this up, it just happens that he put it into words first, or the first person I heard put it into words. 3 reasons people stop. We have a psychological reaction to being shot. Boom, I get shot. Oh geez, I've been shot. What should I do? Should I fall down? Should I snivel? Should I run away? Should I keep fighting? It's a psychological reaction. And if we can listen to statistics at all, right? We'll find from Marshall's book that 40 to 50% of people will stop will have a psychological reaction causing them to stop if they think they've been shot, let alone if they have been shot by anything. You can shoot them with anything, and statistically 40 to 50% are going to have a psychological reaction causing them to stop aggressive action. Okay? But psychological reaction is always at the option of the opponent. Right? They can decide not to. Next, we have a neurological reaction. And that's from a spine or brain shot. Now, let's not even count the spine. I mean, that's a pure luck shot, and we don't even need to worry about it. Because with a handgun, we probably need to strike the spine, the spinal cord, not just the spine. Because we don't have any temporary cavitation, we need to cut the spinal cord. I keep confusing myself. We need to cut the spinal cord, not even just hit the spine with a handgun bullet to get any neurological effect. With a rifle, if we can pass very close to the spine, we'll do okay. We don't necessarily need to sever it. In fact, sometimes the spine will do the job of severing the spinal cord when you shoot people with rifles. Because your temporary cavitation will go flowing across the spine, and the spine will do this. Okay? Sometimes. And sometimes you have temporary cavitation that just gives you temporary paralysis with rifle cartridges. Okay? Neurological reaction. So we don't need to really about the spine. We're not going to hit the spine. We may be able to hit the brain. The brain we may be able to hit. Though that's a hard shot. Why? It's armored, right? There's only a little spot that's worth hitting in the head to get us into the brain. And the head seems to move around a lot. It tends to move around a lot. And it moves around a lot for a couple reasons. One, it's got a pivot point here that allows it to move, right? And so our area is a little ways away from that pivot point. But also we have this pivot point. And so what happens? It's a long ways away from there. Plus it's independent on this pivot point too. Okay? And so we get all kinds of crazy movement going on, and just turning to the side, moving around like this. I mean, think about it. Take your hands and just stick them out in front of you like you're aimed at my head. And you all think, oh, I can make that shot, right? Okay? And now all I do is I start moving around like this, and I'm barely even moving. I'm just moving my head, I'm looking around, and all of a sudden it starts being difficult. And I start going like this, okay? And you start going, whoo, geez, I'm only 3 yards away, and that headshot's starting to look difficult. Okay? So it starts to be difficult. It's not that we can't make it, but it's not, in many situations, we're going to be able to make that shot. Okay? So the last thing we have left is blood pressure loss. That's the only thing we can guarantee, is that if we put enough holes in him, eventually he's going to run out of hydraulic fluid. Right? That's the only guarantee out of all of it. Neurological effect, yes. Neurological reaction, if we can get him in the brain, we'll get that. That's for sure, pretty much. But it's going to be hard. So what we're left with a lot of the times is nothing but blood pressure loss. That's all we have left. It's the only thing we can guarantee, is that eventually his hydraulic system is going to fail from lack of fluid. Okay? We will also try, and most of you guys know from being in my classes, we will try to, hit the electrical system also. But we won't always be able to do that. Okay? So that's stopping power. We have blood pressure loss, which is eventually going to stop him. We have neurological reaction, which will usually stop him right on the spot. And then we have psychological reaction. We can't guarantee that, because that's at the option of the opponent. Okay? Now, let's talk about failures to stop. Why do people not go down? We've talked about this many times in classes before. Why do people not stop? You shoot somebody right in the middle of the chest. You get 2 beautiful 45 rounds go right here. Okay? 45 Hydra Shock, or something else that's supposed to be real effective. I don't know. We got the new... off the subject slightly, anybody see the new ads for Starfire? Right on the ad, it says the deadliest handgun ammunition ever manufactured.
If looks could kill.
If looks could kill, the deadliest handgun ammunition. Your Honor, I was only trying to stop the assailant. Oh yeah? Then why were you using the deadliest handgun ammunition available? Okay, so off the subject a little bit. But okay, you hit somebody right in the middle. 2 Hydra Shocks, 45 caliber, boom, right through the middle of them. Right there. Beautiful pattern, let's say. And he doesn't immediately fall to the ground. Why? What are some reasons that we could shoot someone right smack in the middle of the chest so he doesn't go down?
Wearing armor?
Body armor. Body armor. He could be wearing body armor. Not likely, but he might be. In which case, if he's wearing body armor, would continued shots to the chest be any good to us? Probably not. Probably not. What's another reason why we hit him smack dab in the middle and he doesn't go down?
He's pissed.
Well, that's one. We'll call that our third one. As our second one, how about drugs? Okay, how about some type of mind-altering substances? We have enough of them out there nowadays, methamphetamines and crack and all this other stuff, PCP and everything else, which we can shoot someone right through the middle and they just kind of stand there and laugh or don't even notice. Okay, that happens occasionally. In which case, would continued shots to the chest be of much benefit? He might run out of fluid eventually. Running out of fluid, that blood pressure loss is a lot of times too slow for our purposes in self-defense, isn't it? To wait for him to run out of fluid, that might take a while. So continued shots to the chest probably aren't going to help us much either with him. And then, of course, the third one we have, and I think the put best is by Jeff Cooper, is that you hit someone twice in the middle of the chest and he stands there and looks at you. The other reason he'll do that is because he's not impressed with your cartridge. Okay, simply put. Okay? And that's probably because he's extremely upset. He has some adrenaline flow. Even if the fight's just started, your opponent is almost always going to be pumped up on adrenaline because he's been planning the attack on you for a period of time. You may have been walking down the street thinking about what TV dinner you're going to put in the microwave, but he's been hiding in the shadows thinking, I'm gonna get somebody. I'm gonna rob somebody, beat somebody, rape somebody, whatever. I'm gonna break into this house, whatever. So you're off in space, but he's in combat. For all practical purposes, his body has been in combat for 5, 10, 15 minutes prior. Okay, so he's already going to have a lot of adrenaline flow and have the effects of that, and he may not feel the blows. Most people, when they're in a fight, once their body is in a fight, physiologically, they have adrenaline flow, and they get shot, barely feel it. They feel good solid punches, and that's about it. If that. There's been plenty of officers shot that did not, there's been plenty of people shot for that matter, not even officers, that have been shot and had no idea they were shot until after the fight was over and somebody goes, hey man, you got holes in the back with blood pouring out. Okay? Now, if you're not in a fight and you get shot, that usually hurts a little bit. Okay? Usually, a bit of a hot poker going through you or something like that usually hurts a bit. But people that are in a fight that are pumped up usually have very little reaction to handgun, to being shot, okay, especially with handguns. They don't have to have any reaction, right? There's no reason for them to have a reaction. That's that psychological thing, once again. Okay, so we have, what we're going to be doing in the class is we're going to be using the technique that Clint Smith uses. Find my eraser, I lost it somehow. Dropped it. There it is. We're going to be using Clint Smith's technique, which I think is probably the best technique that I've seen. Makes the most sense. Here's Mr. Bad Guy. Okay, I'll take a little legs down here. Okay. We would say in the average situation, the general, if there is an average or a general situation, where would we choose to shoot someone first and why? Where would we put our first projectiles?
Center mass.
Center mass, or if we want to be a little bit more descriptive, I might try to throw out center mass and think vitals.
Center of the chest.
Yeah, we want to hit him in the center chest, center of his vitals in his chest, which is usually, we're talking about a hand-size area, or maybe a little less. We might want to, in practice, we try to hit this, right? We try to hit this fist, and then in reality, we'll probably end up with this, right? With our rifles, these hits out here are probably just fine, right? Because of the temporary cavitation and the effectiveness of the rifle. With a handgun, you may want to try to tighten up your grip a little bit. You're shooting those puny little handgun cartridges. But usually, a response to the average situation is going to be rounds to the chest. And how many rounds are we probably going to put there? Probably going to put about 2 rounds there at a minimum. At a minimum, we're going to hit them twice in the center of the chest, high in the chest, above the sternum. Okay, above the sternum, right up here. Why above the sternum? Because if I'm going to miss the heart, I want to miss the heart above the heart, not below the heart. Because coming out the bottom of the heart, we have one big artery and one big vein, right? Coming out the top of the heart, what do we have? We got one going this way, one going that way, one going up here, one going up here. We got a lot of stuff coming out the top of the heart, not a lot coming out the bottom of the heart. So I would rather aim up here, taking the top of the heart aorta area as my aim point. That way, my dispersion is going to take me to the bottom of the heart and up into all the other arteries, not down into the gut shot. Okay, gut shots hurt a lot, and you may kill them from infection, but it may not be quick enough for your purposes. Okay, so high in the chest with a couple rounds. We could call that a plan A response. That's your average general response, Plan A response. Okay? Now, we all know that that may not be it. Even if we have our super duper Evan Marshall 125 grain 97% stopper, we hit him twice in the center of the chest, it may not work. In which case, we need to move on to something else. We have two options from here. Okay, we have two options from here. We have the head and the pelvic girdle. Headshot, it's a small target, right? Little bitty guy. Most people would say it is approximately 2 inches tall by 4 inches wide. You could maybe increase that size to a 4x4, okay? Something like this with full powered rounds. If you're shooting 38 special non-plus P or 380s or something like that, you may want to say that it's a 2x4. If you're shooting full load, 357s, 9s, plus P38s, 45s, you can probably open that up to about here. Your full loads will probably get through this area. Your light loads may not. Okay. Anything down here, it's going to be unlikely that your rounds are going to get through to anything important for a lot of reasons. You have a jaw, you have enameled teeth, you got all kinds of stuff aligned at all kinds of different angles, which are going to deflect the rounds. And how big's the brain back there? From here down, what do you got? It's like this wide. There's almost nothing to hit. So what we're really looking at is below the brows, inside of here, above the nose. Okay, that'll probably get in there. Or think of a triangle, point to point on the outside of the eyes, base of the nose, that triangle right there. That'll probably work. Take that band and follow it around, and that's probably your aim point if you have side shot, angle shots. You got some soft areas in here. Up here, you're going to get ricochets. And if you get penetrations, they probably won't be full penetrations. We have lots of cases where the round goes under the flesh and rides the skull. We even have a lot of cases where it goes through the skull and rides the area between the ray and the skull. Okay? A lot of cases of that. So we got to hit them down in the soft areas where we get into something. It's going to be a hard shot. I think a good rule, which was Clint's rule, is that the general thing to do is 2 rounds right here. If we were within 3 to 5 yards, and that 3 to 5 yard rule is going to depend on your skill level, the lighting conditions, the target, his movement, etc. But within 3 to 5 yards, after going to here, we're probably going to follow through to here. And if required, these are where our next shots are going to go. Within 3 to 5 yards. From 3 to 5 yards and under. From 3 to 5 yards and out, from 3 to 5 to maybe 10 yards or so, we're probably going to go down to the pelvis. Okay, what do we have here? We have our engine, right? This is the engine, the heart and lungs. What we have up here, we have our computer. So we can think of this as our hydraulic system and our electrical system, computer and engine. Down here, we could call this mobility if we wanted to. Mobility if we wanted to. Of course, the technical term, which Kevin loves, technical term is pivotal point of mobility. Okay, not quite as simple as computer and engine and stuff like that, but that's what it is. It's also the base the superstructure is riding on. Everything is riding on that. Beyond 3 to 5 yards, we probably can't make that shot in reality. On the range, sure, we can go out there and at 7 to 10 yards, we can hit a head every dang time. In reality, and you'll see here in the next couple of days when we get these targets moving around a little bit at some different angles, that's going to be awful hard. This is probably what we're going to have to take. 2 rounds into his pelvis. What's the pelvis? You can feel your hip bones. Okay? You go down a couple inches from there and go across, and that's probably the pelvic area you want to hit. Okay? We don't want to shoot him in the groin. We don't want to shoot him in the gut. Right about here. And if you look at the legs bend, you can see the crease. Okay? Right? So it's that spot right above that crease. Alright? That's probably what we want to hit there. So if we go here, bang, bang, 2 rounds, and he's 3 to 5 yards or under, and we think we can make the shot, we go up here and take 2 more rounds up here, if he's still on his feet. If he's still on his feet after that, our sight should already be here or here for 2 more rounds. And then here, 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 and keep moving. Always hitting a new target area if possible. Okay? So we'd go 2 to here, he's still up, put 2 here, he's still up, put 2 here or 2 here. Usually when you shoot twice at someone's head and he doesn't fall down, you've just been given a visual cue that that shot was more difficult than what you were able to make under those conditions. Right? And so you probably should move on to a different area. Right? Okay, if he's beyond 3 to 5 yards, we're going to hit him here first with 2 rounds, and then we're probably going to come down to the pelvis and hit him here with a couple rounds. That'll hopefully knock him down. That'll hopefully break his pelvis and send him to the ground, which won't necessarily make him not a threat anymore, right? But it will make him a lot easier to hit. Because at least he's not jumping all over the place anymore, right? So he may still be a threat, in which case, now if you want to go back and make this shot, at least he's going to be sitting still. He may be able to make it at that longer range, because he's not moving all over the place, okay? That's probably the plan. Now, we call this a standard response A, standard response B, standard response C. But don't get hung up in the standard response idea, okay? Your self-defense situation will not be a standard situation, and therefore you cannot have a standard response for it. But think about your target areas and try to be fluid enough that you can transition from target area to target area depending on the situation. But also don't get hung up on, well, what if that area isn't there? Well, take what's there. If all you can see is the chest, hit the chest. If all you can see is the head, hit it. If all you can see is the pelvis, hit the pelvis. If all you can see is his kneecaps and his ankles, shoot those. That may convince him to fall down and expose some other target areas, right? If all you can see is his arms or his shoulders or his guts, take those and keep pumping rounds into him, okay? And keep putting rounds into him and keep putting rounds into him until he's no longer a threat. But we prefer to have a nice logical sequence and hit the important areas. And as is pointed out by Clint Smith, there's something that all these 3 areas have in common on the human body. These areas have something in common, and that is that they're all heavily armored. And why are they heavily armored?
They're vital.
Because they're important. They're vital. Okay? So, in Clint's terms, attack the body's natural armor and press the attack until you win. Right? I think that's a dang good way of saying it. Okay? Of course, it sounds like I'm reading when you say it, but that's okay. Okay, so attack the body's naturally armored points and press the attack until you win. But don't get hung up in a standard response. Take what you can get. Take a standard response if you can get it. But if you can't, take whatever else you can get. Okay? Farnham had 3 little rules here. Lower your expectations of your weapon's power. Don't expect to shoot him and he's just going to go flying through the window and fall down and it's all going to be over. Okay? Lower your expectations of your weapon's power so that you're not surprised when you hit him twice with your super duper load and he doesn't go down. It's not a surprise. You're expecting it. You're ready for it. Okay? Raise your standards accuracy. Raise your standards accuracy. Start hitting exactly where you want to hit and hit something that's important. We all talk about hits, and there's this endless debate, we hear in the gun magazines about point shooting, aim, fire, all that stuff like that, and they're talking about hits. Well, what do they mean by hits? They mean hitting the body somewhere? Or do they mean hitting something that's worth hitting? Okay? That's the big problem here, is we're not interested in hitting. We're interested in hitting the right spot. Completely different problem. Okay? So raise your standards accuracy so that you can hit the spot you want to hit every time. Okay? Which is off the point a little bit, but it's been brought up that this is a tool, right? This is a tool user. This is in charge of this. Where the projectiles go out of this is where this tells it to go. They don't just go where they want to, right? So you're in charge. Make it an extension of your body. Place your projectiles where you want them. Okay? And third, we have lower your expectations of weapons power, raise your standards accuracy. And third, raise your expectations of yourself after being injured. Okay, and like I said, these came from John Farnham. Just because you're hit doesn't mean you have to give up. It's highly unlikely that the wound's going to be fatal. And even if it is fatal, what good does it do to snivel about it? Right? Okay? So it's highly unlikely that it'll be fatal. It will definitely be fatal if you fall to the ground, snivel about it, let somebody walk up and pump rounds into your head. It's definitely become a fatal wound then. Continue to fight. Keep your head, continue to fight. Now remember, chicks love scars. Right? So don't worry about it, okay? Believe it or not, it is not, there's even a good chance of living should you be shot in the heart. Okay, a good friend of mine, Special Forces medic, who's also a paramedic in Shoreline, has saved many people's lives that have been shot and stabbed in the heart. The heart's walls, the heart's muscular walls are about that thick. And when fluid's flowing into it, okay, there's no pressure, so barely anything's leaking out. And when it contracts to push fluid out of it, the muscle contracts and seals the wound. And people live for ungodly amounts of times with holes in their hearts, if it's in the lower chambers. Now, if you get a hole in your aorta, and you're pretty much all over, okay? But even if a bullet goes right there, there's no reason to go, oh God, that's a vital one. That's not a good one there, and then fall down and snivel. Don't worry about it. It won't. It's not going to heal because you're worrying, all right? So fight the fight, get the fight done with, and then snivel, okay? All right. So keep shooting until he drops out of your sights or until you're out of ammo, okay? As Farnham said, there's been a lot of cops that have fired a few times. The bad guy then stopped firing. They go boom, 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 and then they don't shoot anymore. And the guy keeps coming. And when asked afterwards why they stopped firing, they said, well, it didn't seem to be doing any good. Sounds like a good reason to keep shooting to me, but it didn't seem to be doing much good. Okay. And then on the other side of the coin, we have Clint Smith's buddy who was walking through down a darkened hallway, and Joe Scumbag jumps up in front of him, and he draws his .357 Magnum with this 125 grain, jacketed hollow points, 97% chance of stopping, and goes, "Whoom! Whoom!" And the guy goes, boom, right into the ground. And the guy goes, God damn, those things are nice, aren't they? And then he hears the guy go, don't shoot, I give up! And he missed both rounds. Okay?
Scared him to death.
So, yep, stopping power at its finest. Okay?
Don't even have to hit
Don't even have to hit him. That's that 357 is so awesome, you don't even have to hit him. Just sends them right to the floor. You just tell them that you're carrying 125 grain jacket hollow points and they give up. Okay? So, ballistics. Okay, ballistics.
Okay, let's give it a run, see what happens. Go ahead and grasp the weapons. Timers ready. Guns on the rail. Shooters ready. Shooters ready.
In 1972, Richard Davis conducted the first live test of concealable body armor. He took a bulletproof vest, shot himself in the chest with a warmly loaded 38 125 grain jacketed hollow point. In 1992, in order to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the birth of Second Chance Body Armor, I decided to restage these tests. When concealable body armor first came out, there were a lot of people who said that A, the vest wouldn't stop a bullet, and even if it did, the person would be knocked silly, massive internal injuries, even if it did stop the bullet, and they wouldn't be able to return fire. Someone could just walk up to them and shoot them as they lay on the ground. In order to prove that this was not the case, Davis shot himself, then turned and shot 3 bowling pins off a table behind him. I will also do that. It's always amazed me how 20 years after concealable body armor came into existence, there are still so many myths about it. I mean, as I was planning to do this for an article that I'm researching, a woman told me, you don't want to do that because the impact on your chest will stop your heart. And I kind of said, what? And she said, yeah, well, you know, they use the cardiac thump to start people's hearts, so it just makes sense that getting hit in the chest can also stop your heart. Personally, I know a man who was shot in the center of the chest with a .357 Magnum revolver. He was a sheriff's deputy. Not only did it not stop his heart, it irritated him so badly that he shot the man who was trying to kill him 5 times with a .41 Magnum. He didn't have any trouble with sudden heart cessation. Well, let's find out if this thing works. We have here one Smith & Wesson .38 special revolver. We have here a box of Remington .38 plus P 125 grain jacketed hollow points. So let's load this puppy up. Alright, now we're going to find out what it feels like to actually get shot in the chest at close range. It hurts. You know, whoa. Rich Davis warned me about this. He said, stick a telephone book underneath. I had to be macho. Okay. Whoa. Ah! Alright, we have here an entrance hole, .38 caliber. And down in here, several layers into the Kevlar, we have come on, baby. Get out of there. Take my word for it. We have an expanded .38 special slug. It worked! Okay. Marty, could you do me a favor and go, get me a telephone book or something? Oh my God.
Yes.
Hit pause. Being possessed of more testosterone than common sense, we're going to do this again. Rich Davis also sent me another product to test. It's called the police pouch. Designed to look like a fanny pack, but provide the officer who doesn't want to wear a ballistic vest around all the time protection in the event of an emergency. And the idea is, if you see trouble coming, you just go, and that fast you have ballistic protection. You might also have noticed from the squared off look of my torso here, this time I took Rich Davis's advice and put some padding underneath here. He told me, do it, don't be macho, or when the gun goes off, you're going to curse my name. I wouldn't listen, found out the hard way. Okay, here we go. Now, when Davis did this originally, he used a .38 snub nose. Well, no, he used a 4-inch .38. I believe he said it was a highway patrolman loaded with 125 grain plus P ammo. Now, .38 is a nice gun, but it's really not what I would call a heavy-duty macho weapon. Now, this, on the other hand, is a gun. Loaded with Federal 230 grain Hydroshock jacketed hollow points, something that will rip a wound channel through the human body that looks like a roto-rooter made it. Now we're going to see if this will stop this.
Okay, just relax a second.
Okay. Here we go. Get a grip on this. And this too works. Cut. Print it. Okay. I don't know if you noticed that time, but it was just pointed out to me when the 45 went off, I kind of hesitated. It was like I was waiting for more to happen. The padding makes a lot of difference, folks. Trust me. If you're ever planning on doing this, don't. But trust me, the padding makes a lot of difference. So let's see what damage there has been to the sculptured Thomas torso here. Okay, over here where the 45 hit with the padding, nothing. Over here where the 38 without the padding hit, on the other hand, we have lost a little bit of skin. So, but I think we have proved, if any, what?
On the other side, where the 45 hit.
Oh, nothing. Just a, looks like a pressure mark. Okay. If any further proof was needed that, yes, these things will stop a bullet, no, your heart won't stop, yes, you'll still be on your feet to defend yourself. Personally, I think this is wonderful stuff. And if I were a police officer, I had to go out there and risk my life every day, I would definitely be wearing this. And that's all I have to say.